Roll
right,
into it.
here
So
we go.
today we're going to pull everything together into an interlocked, unbreakable equation. You know, that's sort of the nature of neothink, and neotech is pulling it all together, integrating it together. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to, over the next 50 minutes, bring together 50 years of history. How does that sound?
Sounds
Oh,
good.
great.
Let's
Wonderful.
do it.
Awesome.
Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Okay. So, you know, and that's the nature of the greatest advancements of humankind. Once the foundational work is done, they're often remarkably simple. Think of Ayn Rand's philosophical axiom, existence exists. So simple, but it took all that foundational building. She had to build the structure first. Now, everything is coming together here. Neotech, neothink, the prime law, immortalis. You know, my first 4 talks here took us to the launch of Immortalis. Today, will take us yet further. You're going to understand after today exactly what Immortalis is, what's behind it, where it's headed, and why it will succeed. I have said that Immortalis is the birth of the civilization of the universe on Earth. Now, I'm going to break down exactly what that means and what it took to get here. Let's start with explaining what the civilization of the universe is. All civilizations throughout the universe eventually reach their nuclear decision threshold. Now, I assume all of you know what that means. By the way, through my talk, I'm going to cut a lot of the background because you're such deep readers into neothink and neotech that I feel confident that you'll know what I'm referring to when I fly past certain integrations that a new person would not have any idea what I'm talking about. So conscious beings will eventually develop the nuclear power that can ultimately wipe out conscious life on their planet. To survive that threshold, that nuclear decision threshold, to move past its potential annihilation, the conscious beings must end irrationality. That is mysticism among their planet. Now, how do those civilizations move beyond irrationality and end mysticism? Well, the answer is neotech, fully integrated honesty. Yes, effort and honesty to end laziness and dishonesty. Each civilization must evolve into the philosophical tenets, the underpinnings of neotech to make it past their nuclear decision threshold. Civilization must take on the philosophical belief system of neotech in order to rid themselves of destructive and life-ending irrationality, to safely move beyond their nuclear decision threshold. And as I'm saying this to you, realize that planet Earth is right at their nuclear decision threshold. We're right there. So in the process of doing this, of moving past the nuclear decision threshold, the human mentality itself must leap from the conscious following mode into the widely integrating neothink mentality. The wider integrations made possible through neothink are critical to see through the mysticism within and to see through the illusions without, to see the wall of illusions of the ruling class cult. Neothink actually enables us to embrace neotech in our lives. So let's look a little deeper. Let's back up. Neotech enables us to confront and remove mysticism, dishonesty and laziness within self, and remove mysticism, neo-cheaters and mystics within society. We must remove mysticism from self and society to have a society prepared to enter the sea of you. Neothink gives you the techniques to apply honesty and effort in order to overcome laziness and dishonesty. Neothink also expands your mind to see through the dark cult known as our ruling class, to outthink and outflank those neo-cheaters. We must have this mind power among the populace to have a society capable of neotech, capable of entering the sea of you. So let's talk about this new all-important mind power. Let's start with this. We are and always have been caught in a heretofore inescapable cult. Our ruling class controls our lives and manipulates our minds for the leader's benefit. It takes neothink to see through this cult, only breaking from our conscious following modality into the widely integrating neothink mentality can we see widely enough to comprehend the cult we live under. The cult is a result of conscious man today, too much in the following mode. With the new way of using the mind, neothink, only then can we outflank the cult, outthink it, think wider, think around it to see behind the veil. It takes neo-thinking to see past the only dimension civilization has ever known, to see into yet another dimension never seen before, but now is available to us. And as you know, neothink sees beyond just what is put before it. Remember, that's sort of the bicameral following mode, just sees what's right before it. Our conscious minds are kind of in that bicameral-like mode for the most part. Whether at work, in business, or in society as a whole, we see through the illusions to what is. Neothink moves past the beleaguered following mode. Neothink is not a completely new way of thinking, however, but for most people it is. Yet the mega successful people throughout history used neothink. They had to in order to break into the wider integrating patterns needed for success. The more success, the more they would neothink. The reason I named it neothink 40 years ago is the majority of people are stuck in the following mode. And neothink is an entirely new way of thinking, of using the mind for the vast majority of people. My goal is to move the masses from the bicameral-like following mode into an entirely new way of thinking for them, into neothink. My purpose is to break them free from the captivity of the following mentality. That means freeing them from a dead-end routine rut at work by seeing beyond their stagnant jobs. That also means freeing them from a suppressed life in society by seeing beyond their ruling class cult. Remember, we're on two levels here, the individual and then civilization itself. So I start by freeing one from a dead-end routine rut at work, seeing beyond one's stagnant job. Responsibilities at work and in life are just put before you to follow. As you know, I show how to start your own business and how to experience the wider integrations of value creation. I also show my readers how to rise up beyond their stagnant ruts right at their places of work. Next, I focus on freeing them from a suppressed life. What is suppressing us? Everyone here knows that it is the ruling class. We inherently know we loathe the ruling class, but we really don't see it for what it is. It's a cult. Indeed, a cult controls our lives and manipulates our minds to benefit the leaders, and that defines our ruling class. We've always been living in a cult all our lives, but never knew it. It takes widely integrating neothink to both see past the cult and see past the stagnation trap at work, both at the individual level and the national level. So what exactly is this neothink? By the way, we do have some new members here today. So they have only been invited because they're loyal readers of Mark Hamilton and Frank R. Wallace. So they do know a lot already, but I am recognizing that a number of people today haven't been on one of these historic meetings. So I will do a little explaining here on what exactly is neothink. We can best understand neothink by contrasting today's predominant following mode mentality to tomorrow's predominant neothink mentality. We live in the following mode from birth, and we never break from it. Let's remind ourselves, when we were babies, we mimicked our parents and older siblings in a following mode. Growing up, we followed our parents and what they told us to do. In school, we followed our teachers. In religion, we followed our religious leaders. In the military, we followed our superiors. And after we vote, we follow our politicians. And when we go to work, we follow our bosses. And with our health, we follow our doctors. Lo and behold, we are all in a following mode. Well, When I say all, I don't mean us, because we've broken through with Neothink. So Neothink is, however, new for most people. It goes beyond that following. Most people simply follow their work responsibilities, just follow what's put before them, and they routinely do them day after day, year after year. I give many tools and techniques to break free of that following mode living. As you know, in a nutshell, with my tools and techniques, you go beyond just doing what is put before you. And that takes energy. By the way, my son, Frankie, whom most of you know, is breaking big time into Neothink right now. He pointed out this energy factor to me the other day. He linked it back to the bicameral man and how it was under great stress that bicameral man leapt into consciousness. Instead of the following mode, when the complexities of growing civilizations came together, it became too much for nature's guidance system to handle. And the values of the gods, the voices of the gods, grew silent, leaving man with no more external guidance. Now, Julian Jaynes shows how this confusion and chaos just took over civilizations. They were going to go extinct under the confusion. They began to fall. Civilizations began to fall, and man was under enormous survival pressures. So it was at that point, under those great pressures, fighting for survival, that the bicameral mentality leapt into the conscious mentality, where he can introspect and think for himself and make decisions. So he went from external authority to just hearing the voices of the gods, and I think most of you are familiar with that, to internal authority and to decision-making. It took that enormous burst of energy to take that leap from the only mentality ever known to man into a mentality never known before, our conscious mentality. Now, there are parallels of that former bicameral to consciousness leap to today's conscious mentality leap into tomorrow's Neothink mentality. It requires a higher level of mental energy to break from our comfort zone. How do you gin up that energy? Well, here's one idea. Today's conscious mind tends to just go along, just be in the present, day after day, year after year. Have you ever felt that, where you're just kind of going along, you're not really thinking? In short, your conscious mind tends to function mostly just in the here and now, in the present. Most people today find themselves just going with the flow. But to gin up the energy burst needed to go into the wider integrations into using Neothink, a technique is to integrate time. And how do you do this? How do you take a leap into integrating time? Well, here's how. Instead of facing each day at face value, instead face each day with the future always in mind, how you can move ahead into a future vision. Now, you get to those future visions through my many-day power thinking team. You can brush up on all this by watching my YouTube videos, my recent ones I posted on YouTube, a new playlist that I just put up, Mark Hamilton School of Business. It helps you. And those of you who are new here can brush up on what a many-day power thinking team is. Now, I want to read to you a daily prime from Ascension. I'm going to pull it up here out of Ascension that I recently posted about this time integrating technique. I think it's very important. So here it is. I'm going to pull this up here. Okay. Okay, here it is. Okay. So I'm going to read this to you. Major advancements from the bicameral man to conscious man happened as man began to integrate time into his awareness. Like all other animals, bicameral man existed only in the moment, what was right before his eyes. Beyond basic recognition of those in his immediate surroundings, bicameral man was not integrating the past or the future in his life. In short, he was an automatically reacting animal. The animal with the largest brain by far and most advanced guidance system by Mother Nature. With a primitive language, He received guidance through vocal commands, often in the form of audio hallucinations from the right brain to the left brain. And to really get in and understand this and understand more of the societal hierarchical structure of those bicameral civilizations, please read Julian James's book, The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. One of the best books I've ever read. So one of the earliest indications of man integrating the past and the future with the present came in the canon of the Bible. By the way, the Bible, as you know, who've read my works, was a fantastic chronological display of man evolving and making these major leaps from bicameral to consciousness. So this particular one that is the earliest on record of integrating the past, the future with the present are the 10 Commandments. And in those 10 Commandments, you have that earliest example of integrating all of this together, integrating time. You have, for example, if you've been violating the commandments, or if you are violating the commandments, then your future will suffer as a result. So you see how that is? They're taking your past, how you've behaved. They're taking the present, how you're behaving. And they're telling you your future will be better or worse based on what you're doing now and what you've done in the past. See, that never existed before in literature. This is the first time the past, the present, and the future were integrated together, which was a major leap toward consciousness. So that was the first of its kind. Now, talking with my son Frankie the other day, he was expressing his belief that neothink in today's world integrates time far, far beyond today's conscious mind. In other words, as we reach wider and wider realms, we integrate, that's through integrating through neo-thinking, we must integrate the past, the present, and the future in our life planning, be that in our businesses or in our personal lives. So let's just stop and ask ourselves, how much do we do that? Because that's a key technique, a key element into moving into this mind power of neothink, the neothink mentality. See, I find that very true for myself. I'm always reaching as far as I can, integrating all my past, reaching back into neotech and all my studies, integrating with everything I am doing right now and planning and looking ahead and building the future. I'm integrating that all together. Today's speech, you're going to see, is a knockout in integrating time. Now, a perfect example of this wide scope neo-thinking process is Immortalis. Over a half century of my past is integrating with my movements right now with the focus on the prosperous, happy life we are all meant to live in the future, with the final goal and reward of saving all of us, saving all of our lives with curing aging and death. That is a clear example of neo-thinking. To reach this level of wide scope integration and execution goes far beyond the average conscious following mode mind today. Indeed, neothink is all about integrating time. And what excites me is that you are part of this far-reaching neothink super puzzle. You contribute vital puzzle pieces. We are all now reaching into the future together and ginning up some powerful energy using neothink all together on this incredible journey we're on. So let's look more into this energy in neothink, because this is a key. We can best understand neothink by contrasting today's predominant following mode mentality to tomorrow's predominant neothink mentality. I've explained to you how we are immersed in a following mode from our infancy to adulthood, mimicking our parents as babies. Then as we are growing up, we're being told what to do by our parents, teachers, religious leaders, doctors, superiors in the military, by our politicians, and the bureaucratic state. I have gone so far as to say that our ruling class is essentially a cult controlling our lives and manipulating our minds, satisfying the leaders, benefiting only the leaders. In this anti-civilization, the vast majority of people have settled into that easier following mode, subconsciously allowing and obeying the demands and commands put on us, right? The demands and the commands. For the most part, our population is stuck in that conscious mind and is capable of so much more. And that takes energy. It takes enormous mental energy. And it takes breaking from our comfort zone. How do we gin up that consistent and ongoing mental energy? As I read a moment ago from my Daily Prime, today's conscious mind tends to just go along, just live in the present, day after day, year after year. Most people find themselves just going along. Now ask yourself if that happens to you, because we want to work on that. If it does, remember to gin up the energy burst to go to wider integrations into NeoThink. Do this by integrating time. Face each day with the future in mind, how to move ahead into a future vision. Remember, the many-day power thinking team enables those all-important visions in order to integrate you with time, with the future. This is the first real yet powerful step into NeoThink. I recently wrote in Ascension how that first yet powerful step into NeoThink is like your first experience of falling in love. I got a lot of comments on that one. I asked, do you remember the energy you felt when first falling in love? All you wanted to do was put energy into that woman or man you were falling for. Remember that feeling? Now, I bet you do. How could you ever forget it? No way would you just sit next to your newfound lover, wasting hours scrolling through your phone. Instead, you would put thought and energy into spending exciting time with your special person, your body and mind overflowing with joy and energy. When you begin a business while on the many-day power thinking team, you quickly break from boring following mode consciousness, where you just go along day after day, just a go with the flow rut, day after day, year after year. Instead, you break into NeoThink. You fall in love with the new projects you suddenly open your life to. Remember, I've told you that when I first started the many-day power thinking team, that I moved on 23 projects in 1 week, when before I never even thought about projects beyond my stagnant job. I told you about that program of mine, mailing my literature from Ireland into America, and how that brought a big burst in profits to my company. But you see, with my NeoThink techniques, I was integrating time, bringing the future back to me and cashing in on it today. My energy, well, it burst through the roof. Suddenly I put thought and energy into spending time with special new projects. Yes, my newfound love. My body and mind were overflowing with joy and energy. When you experience this, well, like when you were first falling in love, remember you barely slept, right? Well, that happens too to the ordinary conscious person when they first leap into the NeoThink mentality. I remember telling you about my experiment to see if we still needed sleep. Remember that? It happened when the government was tearing our previous company apart during our court battles. I moved to Canada to keep the business going. And this was also when I was writing Neotech Business Control. I'm sure some of you have that book that I published back in the 1980s, Neotech Business Control. It was my first major publication before I started my NeoThink manuscripts. But I was at the time making massive NeoThink breakthroughs, one right after the other. Even though we were going through a tough time with the government, I was so exhilarated while discovering the new NeoThink mentality. It was beyond anything I'd ever felt. I had so much energy and was on such a high. I slept just 4 or 5 hours a night consistently. And I actually began to question if we needed sleep at all. So I went to battle against sleep. I lost that battle badly, though. Reality asserted itself, and after 3 days of no sleep, I believe it was, I began hallucinating every minute or so and realized that, yes, indeed, we do need to sleep. In fact, sleep is very important to our health, as I've since then learned. I was just a brash young man at the time. So I was simply so excited as I was breaking into an entirely new realm of neothink, my energy just soared. As people use my techniques and first experience neothink for the first time, well, life just rises to a whole new place filled with excitement. 100,000 testimonials on neothink.com reflect on this. Instead of a daily rut, suddenly you see and you're looking around and you're seeing and looking into the future. Well, just like falling in love, when your mind went into the future and you saw how your life was now going to look like with that new love of your life beside you. Well, the same thing happens when a person leaps into neothink. When their mind goes into the future and sees how it's going to look now with their new projects of exciting purpose around them. It's incredible. And I mean, the proof of it is just look at all of us here. We're looking with joy and excitement at possibilities of immortalis. Many of us here are not youngsters anymore, yet we are all looking into the future with the greatest anticipation, with gusto and joy. That is your neothink mentality at work. And that neothink mentality of yours is needed to embrace and endure the neotech life free of mysticism, flush with effort and success. You need neothink to engage and embrace neotech. Neothink is the application system of the neotech idea system. And after all that I've said here today, now you can begin to understand what has been required of my father, myself, and now my children to take us beyond the nuclear decision threshold, where unfortunately we are right now on Earth. What was required of us? Well, first, the entire creation of the neotech philosophy, removing dishonesty and laziness and neo-cheaters. Second, the entire creation of the neothink mentality that allows us to do all that. Now you can see why my father's lifetime of creating the neotech philosophy, followed by my lifetime of creating the techniques and thinking tools to leap into the neothink mentality, had to happen in order to bring the world the philosophy and mentality required to join our cousins in the civilization of the universe. Neotech and neothink are timeless and universal absolutes. All civilizations that broke through their nuclear decision threshold and entered the Sea of U had a neotech philosophical society and a neothink mentality society. That is an axiom. Now on Earth, we now have both prerequisites in Dr. Wallace's neotech manuscripts and in my, Mark Hamilton's, neothink manuscripts. We have the foundation and the tools in neothink to enter the civilization of the universe, which will soon happen in Immortalis. Yet there is still something missing. Even with all that, with all of neotech and all of neothink, you cannot get into the Sea of U without one other component. Now, to discover that third component, let's use an analogy to our massive universe that reaches out to vast horizons unknown. Still, it all began in theory at the point of singularity, the Big Bang. Now, I know there is a question if we, our universe, ever went through a Big Bang, but many mass energy systems out there have. So let's take that analog model and realize that for any civilization to join the massive civilization of the universe with its vast horizons of knowledge yet unknown, still it all began at the point of singularity, the Big Bang of knowledge into the Sea of U. All civilizations must pass through the point of singularity to enter the Sea of U. That point of singularity that civilization must pass through to enter the Sea of U is the fundamental natural law of protection. Yes, eliminating initiatory force. Eliminating initiatory force ends the ruling class that holds everyone and everything down in so many ways. The ruling class has never been absent, never, not ever, in any civilization on earth. And this is why we have never been able to enter the sea of you on earth, even with the two prerequisites present, neotech and neothink. Civilization must pass through this point of singularity, its big bang into uninhibited, exploding knowledge and progress. It took the entire neotech idea system and the entire neothink application system to generate the prime law, the point of singularity, the third component. And now we have provided the world with the mechanism to pass through the point of singularity in the formation of our new country, Immortalis, with its prime law constitution. For the first time, all the components exist to join our cousins out there in the civilization of the universe. For the first time, we now have the philosophy with neotech. We now have the mentality with neothink. We now have the point of singularity with the prime law. We now have the mechanism with Immortalis. Today, we are integrating all those together to give birth to the Sea of You on planet Earth. Now, take a moment here to take pride in what you are part of. I found you as a soulmate searcher out there. And here we are together, bringing the world something beyond comprehension. Because no one can comprehend what I've just laid out to you today. Immortalis rose from a neotech philosophical base. Its citizens by nature are neothinkers, and its constitution is the prime law. Immortalis is the beginning of the Sea of You on earth, and its first and foremost responsibility is to cure aging and death. First and foremost. Again, absorb this moment, my soulmates. Feel the value we are creating in the benevolence we are bringing to mankind. Feel it. Take a moment. Take a moment. We could not get into the Sea of You without neotech, neothink, and the fundamental natural law of protection, the prime law. Now think about this. If initiatory force continues to exist, a nuclear war is our endgame, which is why I stepped into the public now. And now Immortalis provides the point of singularity so civilization can pass through to enter the Sea of You and bring about the opposite of the end game to our anti-civilization, from nuclear death to eternal precious life. Again, I want you to, after my talk today, take a moment amongst each other. And I'll be listening to this tonight. And just talk about this value with your soulmates. Just reflect on this, what we're doing now that we pulled it all together into this unbreakable super puzzle. You are part of saving the world from nuclear death. You're part of bringing the world eternal life. So we've reached the crescendo in the battle on earth of good versus evil. The prime law constitution provides our passage into the Sea of You. So now good has a chance to be victorious over evil. Immortalis with the prime law as our constitution is the precious birth of the Sea of You on earth, our victory over the anti-civilization. Now, I told you this talk would be a celebration. This is a celebration of our clear and open path after 50 years. This is our path over to victory over the anti-civilization. Today, you learn that Immortalis is the culmination of that half century of work and development over a half century. The Neotech discovery, the first puzzle piece. The Neothink mentality, the second puzzle piece. The prime law, the third puzzle piece. And Immortalis, the completed puzzle picture, our real life super puzzle, your super puzzle. So take a moment. I'll end this today with this comment that I saw on one of my YouTube videos. And again, I ask you to stay current with my YouTube videos. That's very important. It's part of your journey. But here it is. A quote said, a comment said, "Weren't you talking about this 40 years ago?" My answer is yes, I was. In fact, 50 years ago, my father, Dr. Wallace, first articulated the idea of biological immortality and the war of two worlds. I have, over the years, expressed to my members the discipline, patience that was required for our journey. I would explain to them how the foundation had to be built that was strong enough to hold up what we build. And now you know fully what I meant by that. And here we are. The time is right. The foundation couldn't be stronger. Our foundation is strong, my friends. Our foundation is strong, and we're ready to do this. So now, with your help, we have given birth to the civilization of the universe on Earth. And we must protect and nurture Immortalis. Together, we must make sure she grows healthy, strong, and large. We can count on each other to succeed. Why? Because we are Neotech, we are Neothink, we are searchers, and we are soulmates. Thank you for joining me today. I love you, my soulmates. I look forward to watching all of your comments, hopefully by tonight. Remember to reflect upon the mind-boggling good we are bringing to our precious planet Earth, to our precious mankind. So Josh, I'm going to turn this over to you now. Goodbye, immortals. It was wonderful talking to you today.